If everybody could please take their seats so we get the meeting started, please. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is my pleasure to introduce us all to Pastor Carrie Evans of the Southport Presbyterian Church. She has been here and has graced our presence before, and she's going to give the invocation. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you have not been here for a while, we use this flag for the Pledge of Allegiance, so you'll be facing this way. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Let's pray. It is you, O God, that ordained the sun to rise and fall. It is you, O God, that gave us creation and placed it in our hands. And so we humbly pray today that with all the gifts of grace before us, with the ocean at our side and the possibilities that are endless, may we seek to do your will. May we seek to fill this room and this community with your spirit, with your grace, and with your truth. Might we seek in this place to be a community that works, communicates, and joins in fellowship together, not only in this time, but in all times. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
In a moment, I'm going to ask the board for a motion to do public comment, but I wanted to follow up on how that's going to run tonight. And the policy that was going to run tonight is the same policy that has been used on and off for the past 5 years, from the time I've been sitting in those seats to the time I've been sitting in these seats. So if you're here to speak, depending on how you refer to it, the 441 acres, the land out by Matsu, the conservancy land, I'm going to ask you to hold your public comment until after the presentation by the manager, because that should answer a lot of your questions before you actually do the public comment. So it is on the agenda, but please wait to that. All the other people can do their public comment at the regular time. And with that, I would entertain a motion to open public comment.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Public comment is open.
Miss Lynn Williams.
Thank you for letting me speak. I spoke in January 2020 on the same topic, which was a follow-up to a complaint on my property. I live at 202 West Moore Street at the corner of Lord and West Moore. And there's a city property right next to our property. We were moved in at 2007. The property, the city has looked like that for a long time. They have a swing on it. It's for decades. The swing's been there. But it's a concern. I've got a letter, like you all send out letters, about the fence, the swing, and the garden. And I want to address all of those. The fence, we got a permit, and I have the numbers of the permit, but we got a permit for the fence. It's not enclosed. It's not, you can't get out of it. It's not a dog fence. And it goes down Lord for about 18 feet, and it goes down Westmore. We have the same fence down further and right next to our property, but it's right outside of the sidewalk. Why we put the fence up? Well, That's a really high traffic place. Lots of people walk down there. A lot of people walk after the bar down there. And it's a lot. And if you know the spot, you do realize that. We get a lot of trash in our yard. Not now because we put the fence up, but we got a lot of trash, people throwing their cans, whatever. It's also a safety issue for me. Important that, you know, on the sidewalk side, it slowed down all of the people who just wandered right next to our house. So that's on the city property. We've taken the fence down. The poles are still there. My husband built the fence so that you can just slide it out. It's not there. I would love for all of you to drive down and look at it. The swing, that's been there for decades. That's the second part. I don't have a clue who put it in, but it's been there for decades. So we took the swing down. The poles are still there. They're in concrete, and old bricks, like really antique bricks, were all right next to it. And I would love for you to visit. Second thing, the swing, and then the fence, and then the garden. Well, we've taken the bricks around the garden that we put up because we had a clean out. We didn't have a clean out valve, and we had problems with septic. So they came and dug and put a clean out thing, and it left a mountain of nasty dirt, a mountain. And I waited for about a month and a half, and it didn't move, and they didn't come back. So we put little stones around it and let things grow in there. That was the whole point of the garden. It just was not to be an eyesore of dirt running off in the rain. So we had a complaint about the fence, the swing, and the garden. I love Southport. I'm here because of Dozier Hospital. I had a bacterial meningitis and almost died. And if that EMS service and Dozier Hospital wasn't there, I would have died. So I have a lot of heartfelt feelings for this city. We are part-time. We come and go. We do pay to have the grass cut. My husband works really hard on taking the leaves up. And if indeed you want to reclaim that spot, I'm okay with it. But cut the grass every week because we pay to have the grass cut. Rake up the leaves at least 2 or 3 times a year. And that's going to be a job because it's a little property there. What I'm here to say is I support you. I know if you don't make any exceptions, that's okay with me. I mean, we've already tried to move the stones out. We've already picked the fence pieces out. But you take care of the property. You know, our goal was not to encroach on city property, for sure. We just took care of it. Outside on the other side of the sidewalk, my husband spent 3 hours today raking leaves and cutting the grass. So you might want to add that onto your agenda on grass cutting and leaves and trash. The trash was a problem, and it was a problem with drunk people walking around and close to the house, and that made me nervous. So I'm Lynn Williams. That's my story. If you were here last time, you heard the same story. Thank you.
Ms. Williams, and for everybody else, if you want us to get back to you, because we don't actually engage in conversation with the people that are speaking here, please make sure the clerk has your contact information so we can follow up with looking at your property. We'll talk offline on that, ma'am. Next, ma'am.
Mr. Angelo Collins.
Good evening, Alderman. Thank you so much for letting me speak. First, I want to address something off what I wanted to address with y'all, but you know, I too love Southport. I've been coming here for 30 years. And I got so lucky during the pandemic to finally build a house and move here. It's a great community. I'm a true North Carolinian, born and raised in North Carolina, grew up in a small town, so I love the feel. And now I get to live by the coast. I want to share with y'all a situation. For the last year and a half, I've been trying to get the alleyway put in my house, and that we got all the, and the board set the rules, regulations, and I'm following. HP, I don't know if y'all know who he is, but he rides around Southport. He's got code enforcement on his car. Phenomenal gentleman. He knocked on my door the other day and said, "Hey, he says, you know, we walked back to where my alleyway was. I paid to have it surveyed and all that." The reason I'm making this comment is we're having a nice conversation and a gentleman comes out from another, it looked like literally came out of the woods, but he lived in the homes behind us, and he started in on HP. And the funny thing about it is we're standing in between two property stakes, and he's like, "You can't do this and you can't do that." And HP was there to see me, not him. HP was very polite, cordial. I was like, you know, and when he walked away, I said, "HP, sometimes you can't make sense with stupid." I don't know what to tell you, but because he argued with him and he had his little device there showing him where the property line is. But my point is, I've dealt with the city and city officials, and I feel like they don't get the respect that they need. I don't know about you, but if I walked to your house and started screaming at you, you wouldn't like that. You know, we're grown adults. Show people the city of Southport respect. And I should have said something that day, and I just let HP handle it, and he was fine. He was completely fine, and I commend him. So I just want to share that with you, that if you see a city of Southport worker, stop them and tell them thank you. Look at our city. It's gorgeous. If it wasn't for them, people wouldn't want to come here on vacation. You know, so they're doing a great job. And the purpose I came tonight was to tell the board that when I read in the pilot, because I get it, that we lost the old city manager, you know, I can sit there and do nothing, but I live right around the corner. I live on North Caswell, right around the corner from 11th Street. And I know the people in the outbuilding, and I walked in and I said, "What is going on?" And then they didn't say anything about it. You know, they really were tight-lipped, but they said, "We're happy now." I said, "Why are you happy?" They said, "Noah's the interim manager." And I hadn't met Noah to that day. And the first thing he said to me when I met him was, "What can I do for you?" Nothing. You know, I'm happy. I'm a happy Southport resident. But I will say this to the board of aldermen. I feel like a lot of the people have come to Southport, if you know, worked in different divisions, they left and gone on to different places because they can make more money. But Noah's invested. Noah's not going to go anywhere. So I hope you take that interim title off of him and make him the city manager. Because I heard tonight that when he first got interim city manager, the thing he did the next day was went to every head of the departments and talked to them and their people. That's somebody that cares. And to me, that speaks volumes. I know he's invested. I know this is not a stepping stone. I think Noah would be here for 20, 30 years. Maybe we name a street after him after he's done being city manager. But Noah, I appreciate it. And I think Noah, you know,
Noah,
I've
if
heard
you're
comments
here in
someone
30
made.
years, we will work on getting a street named after you.
But Noah, you know, I just want you to know that I stand behind you, you know, and I need my diaper changed too some days, but it's going to be all right, you know, and it's, but I want you to know that your people care about you and they will work for you. Because the previous manager I had nothing about, they weren't going to work for them. I'm sorry, proper pronouns, but they will work for you. And you've done a great job, and you brought a breath of fresh air. And I've come here twice, and I've just praised the people of Southport, but I love it here. And I love the people and I really appreciate what you've done. And I hope they take that interim title off and make you city manager, because well deserved. And I saw the way you talked to people tonight, and you listened and you came up to me, And that's what Southport needs. You're a great steward of the community. So I thank you for your time, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. And please appreciate the employees of Southport. They do a great job. So thank y'all. Good night.
Next man.
That's all I have, other than the Sunny Point property.
I entertain a motion to come out of public comment, close it. The motion in a second. Any comment? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We're out of public comment, unanimous. There's the next item is the mayor and alderman response and comment. I'm going to hold mine to the end, but I'll just start. Alderman Mostella, do you have anything you want to comment? Alderman Carroll? Alderman Davis? Alderman Kelly? Alderman Spencer? Alderman Lay? Okay, we're going to move on to the next is I'll entertain a motion for the approval of I'm sorry. I got to go back to this part. If I got to read the ethics statement, I apologize. If any members know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Not hearing any, I take it there are no conflicts, but if one arises, please just raise your hand and we'll decide whether it's a conflict or not. And with that, the next one is I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. There's a motion and a second. Is there any comment?
I have some things to talk about on the consent agenda. I wanted to talk briefly about something on the paving contract.
Go right ahead.
On page 2 of the contract, which is page 5 of our packet, it says that it is necessary and required by the city that the contract is performed by the contractor in a timely and efficient and effective manner. Who decides if it's timely, efficient, and effective, and by what metric are we deciding that?
So that would be Mr. Stanley in Public Works. He's noted in his report that it's anticipated to be completed by June 30th of this year. So that's essentially what that section there means. So we'll make sure that we hold them to that standard.
Then I would ask that we amend the contract to say that it would be completed by June 30th.
Are we able to do that? I just want to make sure. I'm not supporting the position. I'm just saying, can we do it?
Sure. You'd also have to take that.
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear him.
So I move that we remove the paving contract and budget amendment and put it on the regular agenda instead of the consent agenda as item 6.
I think we have to withdraw the previous motion.
So you can withdraw the motion and then make a new motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to insert the June 30th on the contract.
Let's do that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the topic? All in favor of the motion as stated to insert the words June 30th into the contract so we actually have a finish date? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. The motion is to put it in the regular agenda so we can have that discussion. I apologize. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand and say aye. Is there any opposed? It's unanimous. It'll be moved, but I'm going to put it in item a new number 2. So it's up in the front of the agenda. Okay, we'll just shoot the numbers down. There's a reason for that. Could you put the paving thing back up again? One of the things that I noticed is that we do a lot of talking up here. And so we have all the diagrams in front of us and you can't see it. And so there's been a lot of neat things that have been happening. Sidewalks have been going in. They just finished this. They have finished the sidewalks, right? Monday, they'll be finished. So they're doing sidewalks and we talk about it, but people can't visually see where we are. So I've asked for 2 agenda items today to be thrown up here so you can see that it's been a long time since the city has paved streets. And this board is responsible for making sure that we have the money assigned to be able to do that now as we come out of our doldrums of not having any money. We're actually using it for the good. So I just want to make sure you all have the opportunity to look at that. The other one is the brick contract for the stormwater, and that's been thrown up on the screen as well. So this is a consent item. So in a minute we'll vote on it generally. So we are trying to get money to do that portion within the blue lines to redo the stormwater system. It is one of the hardest hits area to do. Our engineer would tell you and agree with you that we probably should start at the water and work our way that way. But the reason why that's been picked is because part of the sewer line runs under Dozier Hospital. Not so, the stormwater runs under Dozier Hospital. Who knows why they did it, but they did it. And so because we want to remove that, so if it breaks, we don't flood out the hospital, it got more points. We talked about this last month, but not all of you were here then. And so the contract, and Noah, if you would be so kind as to correct me when I go astray here. The contract is for the brick grant is for $3.6 million in total, right?
That's right.
Of which we were originally on the hook for 1.2.
That's right.
So we're on the hook for 1.2. It's a matching grant. However, because of, I don't even know why they call it potential tropical storm 8, there was nothing potential about it. It came here. That money that the state has allotted picks up that $1.2 million. So we're getting the full 3.6 million. However, in this consent agenda item, we have to spend up to $600,000 for a new engineering study on it. So you know where your money's going out the door on that. We've all had these conversations multiple times, but the city has been struggling for decades on some of the stormwater issues. And we're finally getting into a position where through grant monies, we're able to move forward on it. And the board unanimously has been moving forward on that. And I want to make sure you all got to see that. So that's the.
And I'll note, Mr. Mayor, we heard back that the 600,000 will be reimbursable as well.
There you go.
So it's essentially just an appropriation, and we'll get that back on the back end. So it's a great investment for the city. We are also going to probably be able to increase the scope of work as we thought we might, since the state and the federal government had more money than application. So Tom Z is going to be looking at what those parameters are for the project to see if we can even exceed what we've already done in the application. So it'll be great for the city. For
So,
the project.
and I may have the number a little bit wrong. I know the first number is pretty correct. The federal government gave the state $1.5 billion for Tropical Storm 8, which was on September 16th. Everybody put their money in for municipalities for fixing infrastructure that was damaged. There was at least $600 million left over that was never encumbered. So our engineer, Tom Z and Tom S, realized that. So what the manager's talking about is that we had trying to expand the grant to see if we can grab some of that unencumbered money to make that line bigger. So they're moving in all the right direction to do that. That's all good stuff. And the last one is to set a public hearing date of April 10th for an Alderman meeting for the special event UDO text amendment. So on April 10th, there'll be an open public hearing on that. That is about the fact that if you have a B&B And right now, many of the B&Bs are having special events, which is a separate business. So you could have the B&B and people go to sleep overnight or a couple of nights, but then they hold weddings there. And the question is, should they be allowed to have those special events because the B&Bs are in residential neighborhoods? That's the crux of the discussion, I believe. Do I have that right? Okay. Okay. So that's April 10th. And with that, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the regular agenda. And the first thing up is Maureen on the waters at Southport's final plat design.
Ah. Is this on? There it is. Excuse me. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Aldermen. This evening, our first agenda item is a final plat request by the Waters at Southport. This is the subdivision previously known as Oakton. It was approved as Oakton. It's located between Fodale and Stewart Avenues, Leonard Avenue and Moore Street. So as you can see on the map here, it is zoned R10 subdivision. It is 42 units were approved. The preliminary plat approval was in June of 2023. So they have come forward for 2 lots that are facing Stewart Avenue. They are already existing on public streets with water and sewer available from Brunswick County, and the stormwater intakes have been installed, and the grading and stormwater plan has been sealed by their project engineer and also reviewed and approved by our city engineer. And also there, prior to the final plat, all legal instruments are to be reviewed by the city attorney for legal form and effect. Those were submitted and looked at by Brady, and he has signed off on those with several comments that have been addressed on that. So they would like to move forward with the 2 lots that are on the public street. The remaining 40 will be coming forward together once all of the infrastructure is completed and accepted and approved by the city staff and engineer. So at that, the request is an administrative approval, and it meets the standards. So staff is recommending approval of this final plat.
Is there any questions from the board towards Mo on this topic?
41 and 42, are they in addition to the original?
No, they are existing part of the original subdivision itself.
Okay.
They just happen to be sitting on Stewart Avenue.
Okay. And why have we separated them from the rest? They're just ready now and they're ready to
But
go?
they don't need to wait for any other infrastructure to be completed, and they would like to get built for model homes.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you foresee any negatives to, if we approve this, is there anything that we should think of as a negative to approval?
I do not know.
A question for the city attorney. We don't have a whole lot of choice in this, do we?
Well, it's an administrative decision. So I think staff is saying that they've checked off all the boxes in order to get final plat approval for these 2 lots.
Any,
I don't have any questions, but I'm glad to go ahead and make a motion.
be my guest.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the final plat for lots 41 and 42 based on conformance with the previously approved preliminary plat and with the applicable standards of the City of Southport's Unified Development Ordinance.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. All in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye and raise your hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is a public hearing text amendment for the paving contract. I apologize. The paving contract discussion. And Alderman Kelly, would you like to start that off?
Sure. I just, in the past, we have written out contracts without actual deadlines in them. And I would like to see us start to have the ability to, as it later in the contract says, the city reserves the right to terminate this contract upon 10 days written notice to the contractor solely at the election of the city. But I would like to have some sort of timeline in it to make that enforceable. So the June 10th, I believe, was the June 30th, I apologize, is the date that Tom Stanley has given us in his report. So we can add that to the contract instead of it kind of looking like an open-ended contract until they feel like it.
Is there any other comment?
I have a question for the attorney. If we did a hard date like that, would there also not have to be more language that said penalties or more accompanying language, just a hard date?
Well, I think the language is pretty clear on what would go and happen of what Alderman Kelly just cited. So I think if we can just add a section somewhere in the contract about the deadline and then add it in that paragraph about meeting that, what was it, June 30th date? I think that'd be suffice.
Should we add something in there of consequences if it doesn't get done? Is that appropriate?
Such as penalty?
Well, and I think the penalty is not the full amount getting appropriated to them. So if they only have done half of the work by June 30th, they're not going to get the other half of the funds. So they would get the funds as we go along. So I think that's the only penalty we really have, is just not to release the other part of the money as we go through the project.
Sure. And if with any breach of contract, it's typically you're just made whole by the non-breaching party. So for example, if you had to go and hire another contractor and that's $20,000 more, then your recourse is to seek $20,000 more from the breaching party. If that makes sense.
Brady, does this have to go back to them for approval?
Well, I think you guys can go and approve the contract with that addition, and then it'll be up to them on whether or not they go and accept that. And then if for some reason they balk, then we might have to be back here again, or maybe at your next meeting to finalize that. But I think from your perspective, you're agreeing to the contract with that addition. That's our side. Then we'll take it to them and see what they say.
That becomes an incentive for them to move forward.
I just don't want to see what we had on Howe Street where it was opened up forever and the contractor left for a week to go work on another project. And I really don't want to see a repeat of that. I make a motion that we add the June 30th date to the contract in a way that Brady sees fit to make it work.
There's a motion and a second.
Excuse me, and approve the budget amendment.
Yes. There's a motion and there's a second to the motion. Is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of it, please say aye and raise your hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Good catch, Alderman Kelly. Next one is the public hearing text amendment section to the minimum parking requirements of section 3.17.d. Mo, you're up again, ma'am. I'm going to accept the motion to, I'd like to accept the motion to go into public hearing. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prior to any zoning text amendment, there needs to be a duly advertised public hearing. And so this is going to be that public hearing. I'm going to give a brief presentation of the proposed language. So this is a text amendment to the off-street parking and landscaping sections of the UDO, and it is in response to the updates to section 16 of the City Code of Ordinances, obstruction of public rights of way. The UDO language mirrors the language that the Code of Ordinance updates were made in December of 2024. And these updates clarify parking standards. It outlines the surface materials and the size of the parking spaces that are allowed. And it allows the existing parking at the time of adoption of the city ordinance to remain as long as they are not hazardous or a safety issue. It also outlines how vegetation and protective measures can be placed around trees by adjoining property owners, what vegetative allowances are allowed within the public right-of-way, and also allows private installation of native trees if a city tree needs to be removed for any reason, for construction purposes, or if it's diseased or dying. I'm offered the language, and if you have any questions, I can read it. I didn't feel like it needed to be read verbatim. So that is my presentation, and the planning board reviewed this and did recommend approval of this update.
Are there any questions from Mo?
I have one. It says that within a 10-foot radius of the base of the city tree by an adjoining property owner, basically, so a neighbor can go over to the neighboring property and plant.
It's not neighboring. So an adjoining was used purposely because it has to have a lot line abutting of each property. So it would be the property and the right of way directly in front of that property. So it's adjoining the property, not adjacent to the property.
Okay. And then on number 3, I read through that, private installation of native trees with the right of way is permitted when city must be removed or for construction. I think we're missing part of a sentence.
It's when city trees must be removed for construction.
Okay. Okay, that trees, it's not there.
I had the same question the other day about what adjoining meant, because I thought I could skip down the street and just plant stuff in people's front of their houses. So going forward, I'm not going to hold this whole thing up on this, but going forward, I don't know how we put like a little asterisk in there and say what that really means, or because if you're a lawyer or you're a planner, you would know what that means, but how does the average person know what that means? Because 2 of us looked at it and had some questions about it. I throw that out for future conversation. Okay.
Well, I would like to mention that there is a right-of-way permit that is active now and in effect. So anyone who would want to use this portion of the UDO update would have to come in and apply for a right-of-way permit to install any vegetation.
How much does that cost?
It's free.
All right. Thank you very much. And the action for this is nothing, right? Okay.
Unless there's any public comment that anyone wanted to.
So at this moment, is there anybody here who would like to comment about this ordinance? Nobody sent anything in, man? Okay.
No, sir.
We need a motion to come out of public comment, yes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to come out of public comment. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. We are out of public comment. The next one is the North Howe Street Overlay District. There'll be comments.
Okay, thank you again, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. This is a discussion and direction for staff for the North Howe Street draft overlay. Staff met with Wes McLeod with the Cape Fear Council of Government and the county planning staff to present an overlay request in November of 2024. This request was to be a sponsored planning department text and map amendment for this overlay. And they were in favor of us coming forward and discussing with them some options for this area of North Howe Street that is both city and county properties after the loss of our ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction. Upon they were able to look at the November language that the city had proposed, and we all got back together in January of this year to follow up. And at that meeting, the county responded to the request with the changes that are outlined this evening that I'll be going through. And their willingness for an individual text amendment was changed to wanting to only include it in the current update of their UDO, which was going to be part of it. We were requesting that it move forward as an overlay on their existing zoning and also be included in their UDO update that we knew were coming forward with that. So that was what they requested. They were stating that since Senate Bill 382, the planning board was not accepting any new text amendments or map amendments at this time in conjunction with the updates to the UDO. So those were the reasonings they gave staff why they would not accept a separate text amendment. So next slide. Thank you. So I wanted to explain the corridor boundary. It encompasses North Howe Street from Stewart Avenue, 12th Street, between Lord and North Atlantic Avenues, and to the intersection of Robert Rourke and River Road. This area has smaller lot sizes. It's got less intensive uses. It's more compatible to the business district zoning than highway commercial, so I thought it would be better to really focus on this area. Because most of it is existing homes that have been converted into non-residential uses or there are 1-2-story infill developments. So that is what we're speaking of. This slide is showing the comparison of the existing City of Southport zoning and the existing Brunswick County zoning. So you'll see on the left-hand side is with the red and the pinks, those are the city properties. The red is zoned highway commercial. The pink are our business district. There is one sliver of multifamily within this corridor, and then the purple square is planned unit development. It's a PUD. In the majority of the county zoning on the other side, the bright yellow is neighborhood commercial. And then the peach colored pieces are what they're calling low density commercial. The reason why they added the low density commercial instead of all neighborhood commercial was to ensure that the rezoning that took place in July did not bring any of the uses into nonconformity. So they wanted to make sure that everything was conforming with these standards and were able to function as legal uses within the area. Next slide, please. So at this time, I will go through the language itself, and please, if you have any questions while we're going through this, let me know, or if you have some questions about the map, I'm happy to go back as well. So first, we were talking about the Howe Street entry. The purpose and the intent is basically outlined, and it's just saying that it's to preserve the characteristics of the area, ensuring that there's transition into the municipal zoning districts and into the city. And it's applicable to all new construction within the overlay district, and includes expansion or modification of existing commercial office uses when the floor area is increased by at least 50% or 5,000 square feet, whichever is greater. So in addition to the standards of the overlays, and it also, you would have to meet all of the Brunswick County UDO standards. And then if there's any that were different, this section would supersede the other county standards. The other moving forward that is our dimensional standards. So the maximum height limit, we had proposed 40 feet since it was kind of in between. We now only allow 30 feet in our business district. But since some of the properties were highway commercial and to kind of give some flexibility with the county because they allow higher heights, we've said, let's go to 40. The county came back with 50, and they wanted to have a 50-foot height. The caveat to that is now the county, if there are certain exceptions where you can go above 50 feet if you provide more setback, but at this 50 feet, it would remain 50 with no exceptions to go higher with the overlay.
Well, can I just hit? I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
to interrupt your train of thought here, but to do that for the county's part, that's where Senate Bill 382 would kick in, because they would actually be down zoning that piece of property. Just if you're trying to follow the bouncing ball, currently it's 75 feet. If they were to go down to 50 feet, or we figure something else out by going down, the current state statute prevents that from happening.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct. Further going with the dimensional standards, there would be no front or side yards which match the existing business district in Southport. And then the rear would be a 10-foot setback. So those are what exists now in the business district. As zoned for Brunswick County, they have a 25-foot front yard, a rear yard of 6 feet and side yard of 10 and 10. So they require a front yard. And so we would like to encourage walkability and moving forward the businesses as close as possible so that you can have a closer fabric of your urban fabric that's similar to what exists now is what we're trying to hold on to.
So Mo, just
Yes.
so I understand, so we're trying to put parking lots in the rear is kind of what,
We're trying to get to move to that, yes.
okay, that, just so I
Yes.
understand, like visually what.
Visually, we're trying to get the parking in the rear. We don't have any requirements that they have to, but any project that comes in, we would definitely encourage them to consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. The last dimensional standard that staff and the city had brought forward to the county was that for lots 1 acre or smaller, that no structure will have a building footprint that exceeds 5,000 square feet. And the county came back and wanted to remove that. So that's one of the biggest changes besides the height. But to me, that this is much more impactful than the height itself, because our major retail is anything over 5,000, where their major retail is anything over 10,000 square feet. So that's kind of gives you kind of what the differences are on the retail and uses there. So if you move forward, next, think where pedestrian, no, residential uses. Sorry, thank you. I can't. Yes. So the next one is residential uses. So the Brunswick County, it allows residential uses as primary uses in any of their commercial or non-residential zoning districts. So this would require that there be a commercial use included in the project if there's any residential, so that it must be with a residential and an office or commercial project. We had tried to bring the density down, as we do in our UDO, that the floor area devoted to the dwelling unit could not exceed twice the floor area of the non-residential. They chose to remove that. Each dwelling should have a direct means to the exterior of the building. Again, they removed that portion of it. Dwellings that are located on the ground floor or standalone structures would have to be entirely behind the principal structure. Currently, as the city of Southport's UDO is written, it has to be as concluded as part of the existing structure. This would allow a residential dwelling that could be separate, but it would have to be behind the commercial structure itself. Then they, like I said, they wouldn't be able to front on Howe Street if they were standalone. So as you were going through the corridor, it would be definitely a non-residential commercial corridor, as in keeping in what it is. Dwellings that are on ground level or as standalone structures must again be behind the structure. Oh, I just went through that. I apologize. So dwellings are located on the upper floors of the mixed-use residential if abutting a street line. Dwellings shall not be located on the first floor abutting any street line on Howe Street. So again, just reiterating that they cannot be on the street level. So, and then they removed the proposed curb cuts and driveways for required off-street parking lots that eliminate existing street parking spaces and replace those on site. So they wanted to remove that just so they didn't have to add extra parking on those sites. So those are the permitted uses within the residential uses that are allowed in those. So this next chart that is up, it's just kind of showing you the different dimensional standards for the Southport and each of the 2 different non-residential zoning districts for Brunswick County that are existing, to show just the comparison of where our standards are compared to those. So just want to show you those. And it is everything that I had just explained is kind of outlined on this, showing that we don't have, so in our current business district, we have no minimum lot size, no limit lot width. So, and they require a 7,500 or 15,000 square foot lot sizes. So that's a little bit different. But if there's an existing lot within that does not meet that base zoning district size, they would still be able to use the existing lot as it is already platted on Howe Street. So wanted to just provide that for you for some informational. So the next one is we have included some parking requirements that would match closer to what we have existing in the UDO. It will allow that for residential uses where on-street parking are located within 500 linear feet of the proposed use, the minimum off-street parking requirement may be reduced by 50%. And that is one of our rules, and the county did and wanted to make sure that was included so they could have some flexibility and reduction of parking if necessary. And also we made sure to include the chart from our UDO that if there's any changes or redevelopment within the overlay district, then the parking would have to be triggered if it's over 25% redevelopment or floor area change, or an increase of floor area. That would be that. So that was our parking. And then we also have included sidewalk requirements and pedestrian facilities. So this is just outlining that all new development would require installation of sidewalks. And then it goes through and gives the standards of the sidewalk installation. And this is straight from the UDO that we have currently in our standards. So that is the sidewalk and pedestrian requirements. The next is the design standards and the signage. So they removed single-family dwellings up to 4-unit attached dwellings is exempt from these requirements. That was removed. We asked that the primary entrance to the structure be architecturally and functionally designed on the front facade of the primary street. They removed architecturally and said they would be functionally, so that if you looked at the building, it would be at the street, facing the street. Except for the corner lots, the front facade of the principal structure is parallel to the front lot line and the street for the address that they're using is how that would be done. The county asked to remove the facade colors be of low reflective, earth tone, muted, subtle, or neutral colors. Also asked that ground mounted mechanical equipment, solid waste storage and recycling is located on the rear or side yard and screened from the streets. And out parcels shall be designed and integrated with the main project or principal structure. Those were all struck from our requests. No portion of a building facing a front or side lot line unless a zero lot line common wall shall be constructed of an unadorned concrete masonry units or corrugated or sheet metal. That was kept. And no single facade extending unbroken and more than 35 feet in a horizontal plane may be visible from the public roadway. And then they took out some of our compliance standards, but I would like to add that some of these are in their UDO. So there are definitely the 35 feet horizontal plane is included in their UDO with some other standards. So we're not losing everything on that one.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Could you translate that into English?
Yes. So you can't, if you have a building that is over 35 feet long, it can't just be a solid wall. You have to have some impressions and different movement in the building. So it's just not a solid wall going down the street.
But it doesn't have to look like townhouse fronts.
No,
Like,
absolutely
just,
not. It just has to have some different changes in the depth of the building itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the last section was signage. No outdoor advertising structures will be allowed. So those are billboards. There's one large one existing on the corridor as well. But if it were ever to be removed or damaged, and it would not be able to be replaced there. And then no freestanding sign shall exceed a height of 10 feet. And then all other sign requirements shall be in accordance with section 8.2 of their UDO.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said the one that's there, if it's damaged.
Well, I don't know. I'm
can't
sorry.
go back?
Yeah, it wouldn't be damaged, but if they removed it and it was taken down and it was no longer in compliance, they couldn't put it back up.
Let's say someone runs into it with their car.
That
Can
they
they
would be
put
able
it back?
to. They would be able to
Okay,
maintain
I
it.
just-
Absolutely, yes, yes. So the freestanding signs right now in their neighborhood commercial is 10 feet is there, but in the low density, you could have a sign up to 35 feet. So wanted to make sure that that was left at 10 feet. And that is an outline of what we had proposed. They came back with their requests, and I wanted to say that they did, again, they wanted to put this in their UDO, and, you know, I just wanted some direction, how the board feels about these changes, if there's anything they wanted me to take back to the county. They anticipate that the public draft for their UDO will be available in April, May, with a planning board review in the July, August area, and hope to have the Board of Commissioners approval by the end of December.
Alderman Marcel, go ahead.
I think that the traffic impact was struck. Could you elaborate on that? Because I think that's an important conversation.
Yes, I apologize. The traffic was struck. They use 1,000 vehicle per day or 100 hour. They were stating that their NCDOT representative said that something at such a low level of trips was not something that they were willing to review, just because of the timing and everything.
So then it would still have a traffic impact study would be required at their trigger.
That's correct. Yes, they still require traffic impact analysis, but not at that level. Correct.
Alderman Kelly.
For me, the 5,000 square feet is a huge deal for us. I think that has prevented some of the, they're not big box retailers, but they're big for Southport retailers from coming in on our entry corridor up to this point. Page 150 of 182, Mo, 406. I don't know if there's a different number, because 10,000 is certainly a lot. If we go back to 7,500 or 6,000, and to try and work with the county and find some sort of middle ground, because if we're looking at a 10,000 square foot building, that changes the look and feel coming into town.
I don't disagree with that at all. Yes. Is there a number you feel, or would you just like to have staff's?
Well, my question would be, all this conversation has been between staff, right?
That is correct. Yes.
What I would like us to do is to go to their planning board and have this conversation directly with them in some way, whether it was in a meeting that we just attended and went and had this conversation. But staff is doing their best to do this. I think now it's incumbent on us to maybe have some of these conversations, because there's more than just this. That the 50 feet, we need to understand that the dry storage units at the marina at the end of West are 50 feet tall. That's what 50 feet looks like, not Southport.
I would tend to think that you may be onto something there, that we continue that at the next level here. And there may be, and I just throw this out for thought, there may be a compromise in this whole thing for parts of this on exactly where it takes place. I'm not fixed on this number. Let's just say that they were digging their heels in on the 50 feet, but we got them to agree to everything north of 14th Street could be 50 feet. And this part of town, which is the basic old town part of it, we just agreed to 40 feet. Maybe something like that. Maybe something on the same order, 14th Street and down towards the water. It's 5,000 square feet because it keeps the charm and the ambience of the town. And everything north of 14th Street, it could be 10,000 feet. I throw that out just for whether it's 14th Street or whatever street we pick on it. There may be a motion of ability to do compromise in this if we think about it in that regard. Would I like it to be not 50 feet? Absolutely. But if they dig their heels in and say it's going to be 50 feet on their property, there's a lot of their property that's south of 14th Street. So can we win their hearts and minds over to keep that to at least 40 feet? Because we have 40-foot buildings here.
Well, what I would like to do is approach it asking for what we want, because it's consistent with our zoning, and then let them hear us and then see where we can go. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be their decision.
Well, it's not
Are you-
their decision, it's the county commissioner's decision. And Miss Pat already drove her Toyota to Raleigh to strip us of our ETJ. So the fact that she's going to turn around and put back restrictions, I think that this board needs to talk to county commissioners.
You're
We need to
exactly right.
We need to find out where they are on this draft.
They've surprised me a little bit. A couple of times when they got a very, very good UDO changes, set of changes, recommendation, and voted it down. I mean, a lot of work gets done by the county planning board, county planning staff, and then kaboom, gets voted down at the end. So
Well,
the suggestion, when is the next county planning board meeting?
It's the second Monday of each month. So they just had one this past Monday.
Okay, that's at 4:00.
It's
Yes.
either 4 or 6, depending on their agenda.
Yeah, and they do allow the public to speak.
You have to sign up in advance and they do a limited amount of time for public comment. So if you don't get there early enough, you might not have time for it.
that's really not the format. You're going to have 2 minutes to talk about all of this. The format is that, let's see if we can set up a workshop with them so we can have a real, intellectual conversation about that. Because each one of us getting up there and trying to cram something in 2 minutes it's just not going to work.
Well, and it
Are
may
you
be,
saying a workshop with us as a board of Aldermen and the county planning board?
Well, I'm going to say that I'm going to defer to this board as to which board they want to go to. Do they want to start with the commissioners, who I think might tell you, no, you go to the planning board first. We can try that and see what they say, because they have stayed out of almost all those kinds of decisions. They don't get involved in their planning unless there's a conflict. So they may just say, start with the planning board. Perhaps we feel them out and ask them how they want to proceed.
I think it would be more appropriate that our planning staff and planning board meet with their planning staff and planning board. If we're not going to go directly to the commissioners to try to figure out if this is something that they're even going to approve at that point, we've got a good draft. We've given direction to staff. Let them and our planning board go to the county staff and planning board, maybe in a joint meeting, maybe whatever that looks like, and come up with a final draft that we can then, as this board, present to our county commissioners and hopefully work towards a resolution that.
Are you making a motion, sir?
No.
That's a good process.
and Mo, maybe you can say that would be, maybe they could get either together as a workshop or as on their agenda. Our planning board could be on their agenda with this conversation. That might work too.
I would be happy to reach out, and I think that would be a better option. I think that the planning board should be working with the planning board and the aldermen with the commissioners. I really think that should be the route that it goes. So if you wanted this board to go straight to the commissioners, I think that from what I've heard from their staff is the planning board right now is not willing to look at anything. So I don't know what they would be, when that would happen, or when they would be open to some sort of discussion.
Well, hopefully you can start the discussion by saying, if 382 were to go away, we see it going away. If we see it going away, and as you have pointed out, we have not seen that yet, but except verbally, we've been told that it's going to go away. Then we start with that motion, and once you guys either get a compromise on both sides, there has to be a compromise, then we take that and we decide, you decide whether or not that's the compromise we really want. And then we take it to the commissioners after that. But my coming into this meeting, my thought was we have to give you direction. So it's not the last person speaking who gives you direction. It's the board that gives you direction. So somebody has to make a motion to do something. For consensus, something has to happen.
Oh, I would say that Mo be the point person on seeing how and when and if our planning board can, one, you would want to meet with our planning board to have this discussion and come up with what their conversation is. And then they will then say, I think that's the starting point, is Mo talking with our planning board.
That emotion.
And that's in the form of a motion, if you would take that to the planning board.
Has a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I think we need to have our voice heard. Right now, it looks like the county's kind of cramming everything down their throat. So we need people to know what our position is. You know, I think that's very important.
I think we've been very clear with the county about what our position is already. I don't think it's a mystery to anyone. I think that we've gone to the county commissioners, we've gone to the planning board, we've gone to all of these avenues at this point. I think that I think when staff has the ability to go back and negotiate with our guidance and say, go forth and find some sort of middle ground to come back to us with, at that point, then we can go back to the planning board and to the commissioners, because until that point, we're just chasing our tails.
I think we're chasing our tail anyway. I don't believe that Miss Pat, who got in her Toyota and drove to Raleigh, is going to change her mind about how she feels about Southport.
We still need to be heard. I agree with you completely. We still need to be heard.
I have been to those meetings. I have heard our staff stand up at those meetings over and over again. I have personally spoken to the commissioners. I've personally spoken to the planning board. Until we have something on paper to go back to them with a middle ground, it doesn't make sense for us to keep trying and going and getting punched in the face.
Mo, did you say that the county planning board doesn't want to talk about this until they've got a concrete proposal in front of them?
No, I'm sorry. They don't want to entertain any map or text amendments before the UDO is finished, that they're in the middle of updating.
Well, this would be a UDO thing.
That's correct. So
you can't wait to the end of the UDO to do a UDO.
But right now they're in the process of updating their existing unified development ordinance.
Right.
So while they're in the process of this, they don't want to entertain any separate individual requests. So right now they are saying that they will include this in their UDO update. Our original proposal was that this would be prior to that or in conjunction with that, so that we had some protection now or as soon as possible, as well as when the UDO was completed.
I guess I misunderstood you then. I thought the hang up for them not entertaining any further discussion was 382.
That was one of the reasons that they proposed.
Add it on the pile, Rich.
I'm sorry. What? Yeah.
And arguably, they might not even be able to go and recodify that's the problem that municipalities face with that bill, is you can't even go and recodify your UDO because it could arguably all be downzoning to some degree.
So they're stuck on the big UDO, if I heard you correctly, with 382. So they can't do anything on that either. Okay.
So we've got several hurdles. First, the state's got to rescind 382 if they will. So if they don't, we're dead in the water. Okay. If we get past that, then we have to apparently wait until the planning board and the county are done with the UDO update. Then we get to come in. Am I correct?
No, they're right. Currently, they are putting verbiage in their UDO. They are crafting draft language in the new updated UDO now for this overlay. But this at the language that we have proposed. So that's what I'm saying. Is there something we want to take back to, one, make sure it's in the UDO, and two, if there's some other way. But right now, we cannot go forward by ourselves regardless.
Because right now it's in the UDO rewrite committee.
Correct.
And so that is a subcommittee of the planning board that is doing that. at the county level. This is not our city of Southport stuff. So at the county level, there's a subcommittee of the planning board working on the UDO rewrite. I think if we perhaps, I know the county staff is working on it with them. I assume that's part of the going back and forth that you've done at this point, Mo, with the staff there. Would they give us guidance on a some sort of middle ground, or can you go back and say, okay, let's 7,500 square feet. It's halfway between what we really want and what you want. That's.
But this, I don't know that I fully think they understand what that means because they're not in our Southport zoning, you know? And that's why I'm saying our planning, we need to make sure this conversation, because my understanding is this has mostly been between staff. So this really hasn't necessarily been engaged with the subcommittee, correct? So that's what I'm trying to drill down to is at the very least, we need to make sure we've made our case the best we can, and they've rejected it. The planning board members have rejected it, not staff trying to shape it into fitting in. But because to understand, when we were there, when they had to vote about the ETJ and what to do with the zoning, and they knew they were woefully inadequate in what they did. And the planning board members did not want to vote that night, but they had to. And so I think that if we can make, at the very least, I don't want to leave anything on the table until we've made our very best case. And I would like staff and the planning board maybe, or maybe you can ask their staff what that process would look like. Would it be our planning board members getting together with their subcommittee? What would that look like? That's what I'm saying.
Well, Karen, are you talking about our planning board or our planning staff getting together with them?
I think it's our planning board and our planning staff because it's their planning board members. I think it would go a long way to have our planning board be able to make the case. They're our they're working in all this. They understand the UDO. I mean, but I'm just saying, if we're going to go that route, we stay at the commissioner level when that time comes. And then our planning board is working with their planning board.
I have great reservations on this. We now have all these different groups coming together. What is it that this board would like to see as a compromise and give them direction to try to get that done, as opposed to, because we're at the end of the day, this board is going to be responsible for this. So if we're willing to give staff direction that if you can't get what we have now, that they're rebuffing you, do they come back to us and say, well, do you want me to go? I'm just using 14th Street as a example. The 14th Street is a dividing line between 40 feet and 50 feet and 7,500 and 5,000. We have to give them direction. I do not want everybody's personal views running around. The only personal views that I care about is the 6 of you. And you guys have to make that decision as to what direction we're giving, as opposed to other people having what they believe. Because at the end of the day, we own it.
I don't think we're prepared to move forward with any recommendations on that tonight. And
I agree with you.
And so I would just ask that we reread the motion on the table and
I can withdraw it.
Possibly amend or withdraw.
I think this, because this could be a bit, I think perhaps a separate meeting where this is the only topic on the table. Because of vacations coming up, we'll do it in the next 5 or 6 days. We'll pick a date that is legal, that we can have all the notices into, and we'll come in and we'll just try to find out where the board sits on. We'll just go down the list. Where do you sit on this? Because if I'm looking at this, most of these things, if I read your sheet correctly, there's actually no conflict.
Mr. Mayor, I think Alderman Spencer has something.
I'm sorry, I'm got my back to you and I apologize.
Suggestion, and I was sort of feeling talking to an undisclosed commissioner, and they don't really meet group to group. So the suggestion was that two of our representatives go and meet with the chairman and the district representative, which is our dear friend, Ms. Pat. And I'm not against Toyota, so it's all right what Ms. Pat drove around. But it was suggested that they don't meet together with municipalities as a group with a quorum, but that we should send two of our aldermen to meet with two of the commissioners, discuss what we're talking about. But they didn't really have joint gatherings of municipality and commissioners.
Then I would say that we meet and then send our liaisons to have the conversation.
So if I hear you correctly, Robert, we're going to meet, come to some kind of consensus amongst the board to give the liaisons, whoever they may be, kind of their marching orders. Those two, okay.
Yeah, those two.
Okay. That's fine with me.
I don't think
I wasn't tracking.
I don't think Ms. Pat's meeting with me.
But my question is, their process is their planning board, so I'm not sure what all that means.
At the end of the day, the only vote that matters is the commissioners.
I hear you.
It's just like here. We're saying at the end of the day, we're going to do whatever the hell we're going to do anyway. So let's have that, push it to the liaisons and let them go meet with the chair and co-chair. So that's
Chair and district representative.
Okay, is the original motion being withdrawn? Okay. Then is somebody going to make a new motion? Okay.
We're going to send our votes.
All right. That's the guidance. Well, we're going to have a meeting in the next 7 days, and then we'll work it out amongst ourselves as to what the guidance will be, because there's a lot of discussion here to be had. Everybody okay with that? On a consensus type of thing? All right. Next topic is HB 337 and HB 338. Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Okay, it doesn't work. Okay. I'm going to start at the beginning. What you see up there is House Bill 337 that was filed March 6th. This bill includes the proposed de-annexation of 1408 North Howe Street, 1222 North Howe Street, and 1221 North Atlantic Avenue. Cheyenne, if you'll switch to the close-up of the map. You can see highlighted with the red boxes, the two parcels with the red boxes are the two parcels that the smaller one on near the bottom is actually two parcels. You can see a dividing line in it. So it's actually the rear parcel backs up to North Atlantic. The three parcels requesting de-annexation are zoned business district. By way of background about the parcels listed in the bill, the current owner of 1408 North Howe, RLN Automotive Group LLC, where currently Southport Motor Cars is located, has owned the property since the year 2000, and according to tax records, requested annexation into the city of Southport around the same time, approximately 25 years ago. And anything would have been then, we wouldn't have gone out there to do that. Then 1222 North Howe, where Southport Dog is currently located, and the lot behind 1221 North Atlantic Avenue were voluntarily annexed into the city by the then property owner, Horsemith Partners LLC, approximately 10 years ago. The current property owner, Tollyman Big Oaks LLC, purchased these two parcels in 2023 with the knowledge that these properties were part of Southport. These facts are important. Voluntarily annexed, two parcels became a part of Southport a decade ago, and the third parcel has been a part of Southport for 2.5 decades. We have to recognize the elephant in the room. The only change in Southport zoning that may have precipitated the proposed de-annexation bill is the removal of our extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ, in 2024. If House Bill 337 is approved and these three parcels are de-annexed, our city ordinances will no longer apply to these properties. The first ordinance we think of is our building dimensional standards ordinance, like when we were talking about height. And if you will put up the sales sign now for me, Cheyenne. As you can see, as is evident by the for sale sign currently in front of the former ETJ parcel 1226 North Howe, states that this property has been rezoned to county CLD and potentially would allow a 5+ story building. County zoning allows much bigger footprints and heights of buildings. That's why we have been working with the county and to encourage and help them create an overlay district zoning for us. Truth is, the city has no power. We have conversation, and we do not truly know when the county would adopt the entry quarter overlay zoning and or what the final version would really look like. It's up to the county, as we've just said in our other discussion, it's up to the Brunswick County Planning Board members and our county commissioners. And until an overlay zoning district is established, any changes that happen to the former ETJ rezoned properties along Howe Street will be grandfathered in. As critical as this is to the long-term future of our small town, it's an even bigger conversation. None of Southport's ordinances will apply to these de-annexed properties. Not our lighting ordinance, not our sign ordinance fully, not our tree ordinance, not our animal welfare ordinance, not our stormwater ordinance, the list goes on. None of the city ordinances used to preserve and protect the character of our small town will apply. If House Bill 337 is approved and these three parcels are de-annexed, the property owners will no longer pay Southport property tax. The property owners will no longer be contributing to Southport's general fund, helping to provide resources that pay for our sidewalks, our roads, our parks, our streetlights, our police, our EMS, and all the things that are required for our city to be successful. If you'll go to the wide map now. A total of 4 square miles, everything colored in purple, is currently part of Southport. Consider all the non-contiguous parcels that are part of Southport. You can see on the big map, all that map. No, go back to the other one.
Sorry. Don't listen to me.
You can see, look at all the pink non-contiguous parcels. So the fact that these two small parcels that are really what we would consider in the urban core are asking to be de-annexed, just consider what that could look like. Consider all of the non-contiguous parcels that are part of Southport. That's what we're looking at. This is an avalanche hanging over our heads. If House Bill 337 is passed, who's next? Who among those would say, hey, how about de-annexing me? Turtle Bay is a 100-home PUD development that annexed into the city of Southport 1 month before the legislature stripped us of our ETJ. How about where Lowe's Foods is? That's the last square up there that you see up at the very top left corner. How about Lowe's? They're in Southport. How about if we call that the 88 acres. And if the legislature makes it optional, I guess they might like to stop paying property tax too. If House Bill 337 is passed and 3 parcels are de-annexed from what we consider our urban area, what's the rationale for not letting these 2 non-contiguous parcels de-annex in the future? Again, the possibility of allowing de-annexation is an avalanche hanging over our heads, and our state representatives hold the power to crush us with de-annexation. Businesses benefit by being a part of our community. Their success is directly linked to the success of Southport. With our ordinances and our property taxes, we all help preserve our character and make it possible to maintain our city to keep Southport thriving. Our businesses are a part of our success, and the citizens of Southport are a part of their success. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that the loss of our ETJ has encouraged property owners to ask our legislators to let them opt out of Southport. I would ask that we as a board implore our state representatives to please draw a line in the sand and protect our community by not allowing any de-annexation. I want to give you an update. House Bills 337 and 338 are taking the same path. These de-annexation bills were referred March 10th to first the Committee on State and Local Government. If it is determined favorable there, then on to the Finance Committee. If determined favorable there, then on to the House Committee on Rules, Calendar, and Operations. If it's favorable there, then it goes to the full House floor to be voted on and sent to the Senate. I would ask our citizens, if you'll put now up the slide with their information. I would ask that our citizens call and email Representative Miller and Senator Rabin and ask them to protect Southport's future by not supporting House Bill 337 and not allowing future de-annexations from our small town. That's all I got.
Just as a footnote, Alderman Mosteller, the league called me twice today on this, and that first step that you were referring when you gave the laundry list is Tuesday. Starts Tuesday.
To be clear, if these de-annexations are allowed, then other property owners can just chew away at the city limits of the city of Southport.
Which raises the question, why are they Southport's representatives? Why are they Southport senator? Why are they Southport's, representative to the county commissioners? If they don't have Southport's best interest in mind, why do we continue to elect people simply because of the letter behind their name?
And any other comment?
Our lengthy discussion that we had about the overlay district is actually somewhat tied into this. And I imagine most of you clicked to that the properties that want to de-annex, well, as you saw the for sale sign, that's actually right next to adjoining the property that wants, one of the properties that wants to de-annex. And that's what it's all about. And if you want to, like Alderman Mosteller said, The boat storage buildings down at Southport Marina are 50 feet high. So is the Wingate Hotel. Is that what we want in our entrance to Southport? Maybe we should change the sign. Welcome to Myrtle Beach.
Actually, right now, they can put a 75-foot building in there.
So, yeah, yes. You know, this board, we are threatened way too frequently. These 3 de-annexations are not the only ones we've been threatened with. People in our downtown have threatened us because they don't like something that we do, or we don't respond the way they want us to. And we have got to draw a line in the sand. If you don't get your gate, you don't get your gate. It's that simple. It shouldn't be an opportunity for an entire community to say, you know what, I'll just go to my buddy who happened to find his way into a seat of power and ask for de-annexation. It's wrong. It shouldn't continue to happen.
We've got a lot of people that apparently want to have Southport as part of their name, but not want to really be part of Southport. They don't want to contribute to what makes Southport what it is. They don't want to contribute to our infrastructure. They just want to have the name in front of their place. And that's not right.
Any other comments? So you have the information to contact Senator Rabin or Senator House Member Miller, if you so choose. If nothing else, I will then move on to item number 6. And item number 6 is a presentation by the manager on the update of the 441 acres. So you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, since our last meetings of dealing with this property, I've been in close contact with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission to ensure that we are moving forward with the property acquisition. Last week, the Council of State, which consists of the governor and all the other state elected executive officials, approved the land acquisition by the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. The property survey has been completed, and we have received the preliminary plat from the survey showing the division of land. And the Wildlife Resources Commission is in the process of recording that land survey. The title attorney is currently in the process of doing the title search work. And after that report is completed by the title attorney, it will be submitted to the State Attorney General's office, which is really the last step in the process. Once approved by the Attorney General's office, they will then move the property acquisition to closing. So we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were 2-3 weeks ago. And I think we're in a good place to continue with the acquisition and make sure that it gets into the hands of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission.
So, Mr. Manager, just to make sure that we're all clear on the same thing, at no time 3 weeks ago, or whatever the date was that we talked about this, did we talk about doing a development in the blast zone, did we?
You didn't know there was no discussion of developing the land.
Correct. We never canceled the contract. Amazingly, if you use some business concepts here and you tell somebody you have sat on your hands for 11 months and chose not to do anything, and then you tell them, we're going to take a pause and we're not going to extend the contract right now. Amazing what was happening in 3 weeks. Isn't that something? That's how you do business. They were not going to do anything. There was no guarantee at the end of any extension that they would get anything done. All we know is the money sits in the bank and they keep the interest. That's what we do know. So right now things are moving along. Am I correct that the date for the contract to expire is March 22nd, is it not?
21st.
21st. So we have to make a decision prior to that. There's nothing on the tonight's to
Yeah,
move.
yeah, I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion. I make a motion to extend the expiration date of the option agreement, PIN number 190000002 to a new expiration date of July 31, 2025, with closing to occur on or before September 5th, 2025.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Why are we going out that far?
This is what they requested, and I'm inclined, they are working. I disagree with the mayor's assessment of their process. Which I'm not going to get into, except to say the money is grant money that's in the state. It's not sitting in wildlife, and they're not collecting interest. It's actually the Land and Water Fund who's the granting agency for that. So there's a lot of hoops and processes, and this is the extension that we were presented with back in February. So that's where I'm getting that from.
Do we think it's going to take that long for them to
That
these last steps? Or we
I
just
don't, we're,
allow a lot of leeway in case?
let's just vote on the option agreement they gave us and move forward. All we're doing, we've already agreed to sell it to them. All we're doing is agreeing to extend the agreement. That's all this is just an extension.
Can I make a suggestion here? And that is, there's a lot of people sitting over here that want to express their opinion before we vote. Perhaps we open up public comment for them to express themselves first.
Sure.
Motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ma'am, they have signed up, correct? If you would call them off in the sequential order, I would appreciate it.
Have George Fagoli.
Sorry. Thank you. Hello, members of the board, Mayor. I'm fairly new to the area. About 2 years ago, I retired from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, after 20 years of military service. And then I moved down to Southport for the same exact reason that all of us are here, because it is absolutely beautiful. I'm obviously not part of Southport. I'm from Bethel Road. My property sits right across the road from the discussion of why we're here tonight, or one of them. I really appreciate that you guys are trying to protect Southport, and I think we can make a similar allegiance if the feeling is mutual. For example, you want to protect the beauty and the scenic beauty of Southport. I want to protect the beauty and the scenic beauty of my neighborhood and my home, right? Not only just that, I'm an avid fisherman, and I absolutely love the ecosystem. There's a lot of menhaden back there. Menhaden are in trouble. You kill that, you kill the entire ecosystem outside of the Cape Fear, literally all of it. So Cape Fear River is already polluted. Everybody already knows all this information. So I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of time. My other concern is that I would like some information and some clarity about a certain section of that acreage. I don't know if it's 12, if it's 14. I've heard different stories. It's a clean slate with me. I don't know any of you, so I would just like some information about what that 14 acres is supposed to do. I've heard anywhere from it's supposed to be a laydown for debris, or it's supposed to be for water, a water tower, some type of utility. I don't know. I'm just asking for clarity. My concern with that would be, I mean, from a perspective side, it would seem that Southport is just taking something else where I don't have a way of defending myself I'm not a dentist in Southport. So I don't know how accurate that is. I would just ask for some clarity. That's all. Thank you very much.
Noah, can you give?
No, you're good. You're good. You can just go. You put me in a predicament now. And that predicament is, we just got done telling you that we're not going to answer your questions, but you have a valid question, and it looks like we're going to come to some kind of conclusion tonight, maybe. So Noah, would you explain to him the laydown field and the water tower?
Yes, so we, as a part of the survey and the conveyance, the city is going to retain 10.31 acres. Our Public Resources, Public Services Department has our laydown field for our equipment out there. The county will also retain 4 acres of the property. So our main retention is the 10 acres, which will be for our Public Works Department.
And just to note, the laydown yard, the larger acreage that Noah just mentioned, is not on Bethel Road. It's actually off of Sunny Point. So the smaller portion is on Bethel Road.
And as I understand it, it's not a massive water tower like the one we have in the middle of town, or the big one that is right next to Smithville Park. This is, who can describe what this likely is going to be? Tom?
I'm not sure that we have any definitive answer on what it's going to look like. Do we, Tom?
Yeah.
No. It can range in a couple of different ways. The traditional water towers, if you just look at Oak Island all the way down, you see the blue towers. That's one way. The other one is, because it was by my house where I used to live, it's a massive round thing. It's about 25 feet tall. It gets its pressure by having a lot more water in it. It's bigger. It's a round thing. And the reason for that, and the chief just walked out, is the water pressure over there is low. Now, there's no development going in to support higher water pressure because it's the blast zone. So all that stuff that you heard and people were saying that we're going to put a development in there, that's just simply not true. What it is you can't fight fires. So they are looking to see how to put more water pressure in there. So if they ever have to fight a fire in that area, they can do the job safely without getting our personnel hurt. So that's that issue. Ma'am, the next person to speak.
I have Dr. Steve, but I think I saw him leave. Is he out here? Steve, yeah, did he leave? Okay. All right. So then I have Ron Madden.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I know what it is for you to have these meetings. Am I too close? Okay. I'm with George, and we are very concerned with the property there. We're so happy to hear that you've made the right decision and that the conservation group will get the property. That was the right thing to do. In 2022, we looked at a sewer plant going in, and the mayor back there was Mayor Dove. May you rest in peace, sir. And so that didn't happen. And now we were looking at the next thing was that we'd have some type of road construction through there, which would go nowhere. That didn't happen. And it looks like now we still have a piece of property that's right adjacent to our homes. These are our retirement homes. This is a very similar to Indigo Plantation that you have with beautiful homes, beautiful area. So we're concerned to see what happens there. We know a lot about Southport. I've lived here for 25 years. I contribute to Southport as much as I can. I have a group that plays at the nursing homes, and eventually you guys will be there. So we'll be playing for you too. And so we're happy with Southport. This is paradise. Our neighborhood is paradise. We're just asking for you to be the good neighbors that we are to you. We love this place. We like to see what's happening. And we don't just show up here to complain to you. We show up and we volunteer a lot. And I'm sure everybody else in this town feels the same way about Southport. It's paradise. We have a little slot there that we found. And if you look in our neighborhood, you'll see that everything is pristine. We take great pride in our neighborhood, as you do in Southport. We're so happy to be here. We just ask you to be good neighbors too, and don't put any type of trash in that property. We wouldn't do it to you. Don't do it to us. Thank you very much.
Next, man.
I have Ron Jones.
Well, Mayor, Alderman, all of you have showed up to speak. I appreciate it. I'd like to extend a special thanks to Mr. Terry Duff, who has spearheaded most of of our opposition to this. So, well, thank you, Terry. I love Southport too. I've owned property for over 30 years, and I built my house in 2002. Me and my wife, we discovered Winding Creek on a trip to St. James and decided that we appreciated the amenities that Winding Creek offered as opposed to what we may have restrictions at St. James. Not to knock St. James, that's a wonderful place. You guys have knocked the ball out of the park tonight with me in that I have spent numerous hours preparing a rebuttal statement and all against all of you. And all of this is based on the knowledge that is at hand and circulates through our community and in the newspaper. So I was going to plead with you to do the morally right thing, to be stewards of our environment, to share with us the pride of the area that we have. Ever since I've lived here, this is kind of a moot point now, but since we have lived here, we have had an endless fight to protect our community of Winding Creek. This is back in 1990 when I bought property here, when it was just passed over to, as a result of death, it passed over to a young man, and he decided to sell the property and to subdivide it. It's a great place. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled all over the country. I've been everywhere. And the nastiest, terriblest places you ever want to go. I've damn near been killed on a couple of times in terrorist attacks and things. This is the paradise that we were looking for. We lived in Virginia Beach. We first moved there. My wife and I, it had a population of 112,000. We left in 2002, and it was over 700,000. And today, I'm sure it's pegging 1.5 million. We don't want that here. You don't want that here. No one does. It's a very, very rare place. We live in a diamond mine. So we've had to fight. The first attempt was the county commissioners permitting a company to build a limestone mine, which would devastate that property and the waterway that we live on. We live on Nancy's Creek. It's a tributary to Governor's Creek and to Walden Creek. It's beautiful. Anybody, if you have ever taken a boat ride down there or a canoe or a kayak, you'll appreciate the gem we have. So we fought this county on the first attempt to build a destructive mine. We had to fight you guys from building a sewer plant directly across from our entrance. And thank God that did not occur. And it was best for the outcome was the best for the city of Southport anyway. I see where there's a long list of things occurring in relation to that property since I've been here. A lot of it we brought before your council and other places. I'm glad you're doing the right thing. I really, really can go home tonight and sleep better than I have been sleeping for a long time. And you would go through the same thing had it been not in my backyard. That's us. We don't want that. You don't want that, really. And you're doing the right thing. I had all the kind of snidely comments and things I was going to say to you guys, and I'll retract that. But I do have an interest, and we still do as a community, have an interest in the land that you're going to retain for use by the county and for yourselves. Now, a clearer definition of that 4 acres, I think the city is going to have, whatever that is, it's reversed. Okay, well, we will look forward to if you can define what your usage is going to be. So we don't want anything that's going to be environmentally hazardous or protect us. Go ahead, sir.
Well, the good thing is that our parcel is not on Bethel. So you take that up with the county.
Okay, we will do that.
The other,
rest assured.
yeah, the other parcel is a laydown yard. And I don't know if Tom wants to explain what a laydown yard is, or maybe the mayor wants to define laydown.
I have one question about laydown yard. Will they be light pollution? Will it be illuminated 24 hours a day?
If it is, it's nowhere
No.
near you.
It is,
It's nowhere near you.
Okay, good.
it is not.
I feel better. I'll
So,
sleep longer.
A laydown field, and I had to be educated to that when I got elected. A laydown field is where we take the hurricane debris for the trees and stuff. So the laydown field, so you can rest assured, used to be Taylor Field, which is a beautiful field right in the middle of town.
Wow.
The laydown field right now is we have to take all those trucks and mix them with 4 million cars on 9th Street twice a day, because the laydown field is at just beyond the elementary school. It's not where you need to be.
I think they're doing the right thing then.
So yes, we actually
I
do
think
once in
you're
a
doing
while.
the right thing.
So
There's no doubt.
this is stuff that every time we have a hurricane, we have a
Oh, yeah.
ton of trees down, and you have to move those things someplace until you grind it up. It's all mulch. That's what it is. That's the purpose of the whole thing.
I
Now,
understand.
if anything else is taken out there, it is only there temporarily until we can get the haulers to take it away.
Or to ground it up.
Well, if the trees will be grounded up, but if they take other debris, let's assume this building fell down. Well, we have to move the debris someplace. So it might go there. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to even try to hide that from you, but it's only there temporarily until the haulers can come and take it away someplace. And that really is not our first choice. That would be a last moment choice, because it would be best if we stuck it on a truck to haul it away in one swoop.
Absolutely.
And
We agree with you, and I understand that.
Yeah.
We suffer storms throughout our neighborhood,
Yes.
as everyone does here. And we've had occasions where our roads have been covered and a lot of debris. And it's all, we as residents pay for that removal. So yeah, I understand. We
But this was not.
contracted.
This was not a harebrained idea of ours. We had, with the places that we put it before, we've had these laydown fields since for quite some time, and they've been right in the middle of the town, and they have not caused an environmental hazard. And the stuff that's there is there only temporarily until we can grind it up. If we have to take it out of town to the next nearest place, and Tom Stanley, help me with this. It's an hour and a half one way.
That's where y'all see me and Doug going.
So we remember how this whole thing works, okay? To make sure everybody has to identify, every municipality has to identify a contractor to pick up the stuff, and they make contracts with everybody. So what you really get is a couple of trucks. That's what you get, because everybody's in the same problem. So it takes longer to do it because there's just not enough resources to do it.
But Mr. Mayor, it's also not on Bethel Road.
It's right. It's absolutely not on Bethel Road. Has nothing, you won't even see it.
Right. And I've told you, we appreciate that, if that's the true area designated for that. And then we.
The only thing that's near
objection to
Bethel
any of
Road
that.
is the potential water tower, and you want that, because if those woods catch on fire,
You got
it's
it.
coming for your house.
You betcha.
So all of that has been well thought out and to do that. So I hope that answers your
All we
question.
have to do is witness the fires down in Myrtle Beach and Los Angeles. It's just, it can happen, and it moves very fast. And I appreciate the fact I can sleep tomorrow night even better because I know the city of Southport's going to put a water tower over there and it potentially may be used for fires along in our area. And I agree.
Well, just remember, we don't own the water tower. That's a county.
Okay. All right. I thank you. You've done the right thing. You made the right decision. We look forward to the completion. And I thank all the aldermen for your hard work. All of us have seen tonight how much work you do, how complicated it is, and the loops and hoops and hurdles you have to go through to do that. At one time in my life, I thought about entering in politics down here, and I'm so glad I did not. Oh, God, you talk about endless sleep. You got it. Good night.
Next.
Linda Jones. I don't control this. Okay. I just want to thank the mayor. He had a little talk with me before when I first signed
That
it.
was a positive talk, right?
Yes, it was positive. I thought he's not such a monster after all. Because, yeah, I just want to thank you all, and I want to thank everybody that came here because Bethel Road is really special. A lot of people don't even go to the end of Bethel Road. Yeah. A lot of people don't even go to the end of the
I went to
dead
the
end.
gate today.
Oh, you were at the gate? Okay, it's a big gate. Yes, but yeah. But we have fox squirrel. We have so many alligators over there. I mean, 13 feet alligators. We have beautiful deers. Now we've got coyotes coming out and coming through our neighborhood. And it's just beautiful. It's pristine. And everybody takes care of their home. We've got a lot of wonderful people. A lot of them aren't here tonight, and a lot of them are, and I'm glad they showed up. But thank you for listening. And God, I hope this contract gets signed with the wildlife. So, thank you. I'm so sorry, Miss Deborah, but it's Deborah Savuso. Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman, for letting me speak. I'm glad to hear that you're working on the contract with the wildlife. I just want to let you know, me and my husband, we are the ones who live at the entrance of the 14 acres that Southport still will own, even though it's right on Bethel Road. Walden Court in Bethel Road, is that? That was for the wildlife. That's what you're going to sell to the wildlife.
We're retaining the entrance to Sunny Point. We're retaining property there.
Okay.
And there's 4 acres on Bethel Road, but that's the county. It has nothing to do with
That's
us
for the
anymore.
county, because I see they put 2 posts there with the orange tape. That's their mark. Okay, because that's going to be right. It's a very small road right across the street from my property and my front door, and that's what I'm worried about. Because there's complete woods there. It's a very short area, and then there's swamp. Like
The county
wetlands.
commissioners meeting are the first and third Mondays
Okay,
of the month, and the county planning board meets
so
on the
that'll be their
second Monday.
property.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know, but I want to thank the mayor for explaining what is going to be done with the Southport parcel with the water tower. Very interesting. Did not know as our water pressure does go down, and thank you for explaining that. But just want to say that Bethel Road is a beautiful place. We do have to save our natural area because it's never going to come back once it's destroyed. Even though we're not part of Southport proper, my husband and I are Southport citizens. I'm a member of Southport Historical Society. I give tours at the jail. member of Southport Garden Club. We practically live down here in Southport. We've been coming here for vacation since the 80s. Even though we're from the north, we're still Southerners. So, we love Southport. And what you just talked about with the last agenda, we're very concerned about also. We don't want anything ugly at our front door. And we don't want anything ugly at front door of Southport. I mean, I was upset when the palm trees were removed over across the street from Walgreens. When we first moved here, there was palm trees there. So you can understand how much we love this area. And we read the pilot like religiously and follow everything you do. We can't vote. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. We're part of the county. But please, one question I still have to ask is, what if they're not ready by the 21st? Are they going to be ready at the 21st?
Well,
Now, since you love Southport, would you like to annex into Southport?
Pardon?
Would you like to annex into Southport since you love it so much?
I would not mind.
We really? Thank you. I appreciate it.
I thought we were.
Y'all love
when we
Southport?
moved here.
You love Southport? Do you want to annex in?
Yeah.
Anybody?
We thought we were.
Anybody want to pay taxes?
So
We got
we got to move this along because we'll be here all
We're
night.
we're just talking about this contract. That's all we're talking about right now. But you have brought that up. And okay.
We still have like 2 hours of work that we're going to
I
go back
know.
here
So
and do.
that's what I'm here. Please consider extending.
The only question that's really before us, and I welcome any member of the board to correct me if they disagree, is a business decision. Do we keep the gas pedal down and hold off on the extension until we see them do more? Or do we vote tonight to take the foot off the gas pedal and hope that they do it? That's the only decision that's here. So at the end of the day, that was what was talked about last time. It just didn't get communicated very well to the outside world.
May the Lord
Okay, so
give you the right decision. Thank
okay,
you.
ma'am, next.
Can we call the vote? I mean, I appreciate the feedback, but we know where the vote's going to lie. And the people that are going to speak want that outcome. And we have hours of work left to do.
Are you asking the board to make a decision on that, sir?
How many more public comments?
$11.
So I guess the question is, I'm assuming all 11 will be on the same topic and of the same nature. If you're going to be all riled up because we go to a vote and you don't get to speak, yeah, you're going to be all riled up because you don't get to speak.
Well, and I'll agree that if we don't, I'll stay and listen to you afterwards. How about that?
I agree. Extend, right? I'm not in council.
Well, that's not the question. The only question I'm asking you, sir, and I don't mean to be mean, but we have to keep some kind of decorum here, is that if there's someone who is going to walk out of here ranting and raving because they didn't get a chance to speak and they signed up, I'm going to honor that. If not, we're going to move forward with the vote. So raise your hand or forever hold your peace. Not seeing anything, we'll go forward with the vote. Are you good, Robert?
So anyone out of the 11 want to speak? Anybody want to speak out of the 11 that are left off? Everybody's good? Mr. Dell? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Make this real short. Just ask you a question. Oh, I understand. Trying to speak, so we want to be here until 3 o'clock in the morning. Good evening. My name is Terry Duff. I reside in 6519 Walden Pond Lane. Do appreciate the tenuous path that the board has taken, the mayor has taken. I've spoken with multiple state personnel, including the district attorney's office, just to understand how the money flows. Every single organization, every single one, and there were 9 of them, every single one speaks very, very highly of the city of Southport and the administration. There was one exception at the county level, and I think you all know who that is. But at the end of the day, kudos from the NCWRC, whether it was Ben Solomon or his boss, certainly reaching out to the district attorney's office. They were very, very kind in sharing how monies flow and how monies don't flow. So we as a board, we as the personnel sitting in the room, we want to thank you. We hopefully you'll reevaluate your initial vote where it was a 4-3 not to extend it, to allow the extension. And I understand the political leverage. I think that was, you know me, I've been here multiple times. I think that was a brilliant play to bluff them into acting. And if you look at what they've done, the survey is done. I think I shared that with you at the last meeting. I think it was the first Monday of this month. I actually spoke with the surveyors and that was done. The deed and the title research, that's done. I think the only mitigating circumstance right now is having the district attorney of the North Carolina to actually release the funding. So I think you're within an inch of the goal line. So we would respectively ask you to extend it per the memorandum that came from the NCDOE on February 3rd. And that was delivered, I believe, directly to you, Mr. Mayor. And that's the extension of option agreement 1900002, SPO 10-LA-197. So that was what I think somebody on the board had read earlier. So this is what we're asking the board to actually vote on to allow the extension as stipulated in this NCDOA document. So I think I speak for the remaining people that wanted to speak on this issue. Do appreciate you listening, you taking action. So heartfelt, and hopefully you'll never see me again, but I don't want to make any promises. So thank you very much.
Just before we vote, I think it's important to just dispel the fact that we never voted not to. And so there was never a motion to not extend. It was to look at all of the situation. If there was a better conservancy group to take on this property, we might have considered that. So, that snowball became much more than it really needed to be.
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? For the record, Madam Clerk, could you read the motion that was before us?
I follow up on what,
I reserve right to comment as well.
You want me to restate it? Would that be easier?
Yeah, please.
Tori, the motion to extend the expiration date of the option agreement PIN number 1900002 to a new expiration date of July 31st, 2025, with closing to occur on or before September 5th, 2025.
And there was a second to that. So now we are at the discussion point for that motion. Is there any discussion?
yes. Just to follow up on what Alderman Carroll just said, we were looking at a possible secondary conservation group. We were looking at another potential conservation group, not something else. So we were looking for good and good. We were not looking to build a neighborhood next to you. We were not looking to put a sewer plant next to you. We were looking to make sure that we were doing the best fiduciary duty to those of our citizens in Southport while looking out for the entire property. So I think that there was a snowball that went out of control, and a couple of phone calls to any of us could have stopped that before you guys felt like you had the sky falling on you, because it was certainly not falling on you.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I think we voted on this in January. It was one of the first meetings that I was fully back on the board. I didn't agree with the sale of this property when it happened. I was part of the administration. We were working on a sewer plant. It wasn't necessarily going there. There was a drawing. That's about it. They saw the drawing before I did and got upset about it. Then we see what the result is of wastewater treatment and water sewer being taken away. So we never openly tried to sell this property for top dollar. We went straight for one organization and we never looked at any other options. And I have people on the planning board who tried to do multiple things, cemeteries, things that we could use the facilities for that would be nice. But we got shooken around by our local neighbors who didn't like what they thought we were going to do. So we didn't do anything at all. Now we're selling 441 acres for $600,000. Really? I will sell my house today and buy it. I will sell my house today and buy it if they'll sell it to me for that. I'll take it. I'll take it and forever. Anybody here would. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm talking. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. So this was a bad deal from the beginning with a bunch of people from Bethel Church Road who didn't like what we were going to do, who haven't ever paid tax in Southport in your life. You're not a member of Southport. So what? You talk about paradise. You've ruined paradise for me. I grew up here. You've ruined paradise. Paradise was when, no. Paradise was when you could have multiple generations grow up and afford to buy a home and have a job. My dad worked at Sunny Point Military. It's on one side of you. Other people, no. On the other side of you is a nuclear power plant. A nuclear power plant. Did you know that? You go underneath the power lines every time you go home.
Mark.
You cross the train track.
Mark. Take a breath.
So you ruined paradise for me. All right. Hey, I am. Multiple generations.
Mark. Mark, please.
Please buy.
Everybody, take a breath. Take a breath. We're going to have decorum here. A legislator is allowed a lot of leeway. You may not like that leeway, but they are allowed that leeway. We're going to have decorum here. We're not having a screaming match. Mark is going to sit down. We've had the discussion and we're going to move on. But to fill in a little of the gap, we paid $2 million for that property. We sell it for $600,000. Buy high, sell low. Good idea. Just remember that and we're going to sell it to a conservancy. Don't worry about it. Just remember that this one, wildlife, what do? You're going to have hunters on the property. Now, they claim it's going to be bow and arrows, but just so you know that. So when we, at the last meeting, were looking at another organization, it was one that would not allow hunting. It didn't work out. Their parameters would not fit this agreement. And so that fell by the wayside. But everything that we have been trying to do here is for the betterment of the environment and the betterment of the city, and as much as we can help other people. So that's where we are. And I'm sorry that I raised my voice, but we have to keep some kind of decorum here.
With Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
may I apologize, but with regards to the $2 million price tag that was paid, I look at real estate transactions. It's my life. There's a lot that went on there that we don't know about. There was conservation money that was paid back. So I don't want it to, sell high, buy low. I don't know what we actually did. And this board didn't make those decisions together. So, yeah.
So As you can see, the conversation is going, as Alderman Kelly adroitly put it, who was looking at either good or good. It was not looking at bad, okay? So at this point in time, is there any other discussion before we vote? So I'm calling the motion to all in favor of the motion as it is. Please say aye and raise your hand. All opposed? It is 5-1. The motion passes. And again, I apologize for raising my voice, but we're going to get a little Donnybrook here, and we can't have that. So with that, I'll go to committee report. Actually, I'm going to take a 5-minute break because I think most of you guys
Mr.
want to
Mayor,
leave.
before everyone leaves, can I take a little bit of leeway to speak for just a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys just sat through our whole meeting and we appreciate that. You heard the fight that we are beginning for the overlay that we're trying to do coming into Southport. We need your voices at the county meetings, because if you love Southport, as you say you love Southport, then you will care about whether or not we have a big box store coming into Southport. You will care if what looks like coming into Southport no longer looks like coming into Southport. So as I mentioned, the county commissioner meetings are the first and third Mondays. You've got to check the schedule. I think it's 3:00 on the first Monday and 6:00 on the third Monday. And the county planning board meetings are on the second Monday of the month. So that's all posted on their website. And you can go to public comment there, just like you can go to public comment here at our meetings and speak to that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're done with this whole thing, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd welcome that. So I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. Those who want to leave can leave, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes. Could everybody, if you're going to stay, could you take a chair, please? We're back in session. The next thing up is the ABC board. Frank, do you have any comments?
Yes. We met last night. The revenues for February this year as compared to February last year are down about 9%. The reason for that really is there's one less day this year. There was 29 days last year, only 28 this year. So that is what, plus there was not a bourbon raffle this year. In other words, it was still a good month, but not as good as it was last year because of the time frame.
Okay, the next is the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. It's been a busy few weeks at City Hall, but a productive few weeks. This past week, I had the opportunity to tour our electric system with Energy Manager Larry Ditton to learn all about our energy services that we provide and the good underground project that we're pursuing that will help us out a lot with our power outages. So I enjoyed that tour. I continue to stay on top of our shoreline stabilization project, which is an important project for us as we receive the state appropriation for that requires us to get those monies appropriated and spent. Surveyors were on site last week to begin the first phase of the project. We're currently working with our property owners in the area to get easements for the next phases of property so that we can make sure that project is moving along. As you know, several weeks ago before the transition, we had our first budget meeting. I continue to work with staff to work on our budget process going forward. Our next scheduled budget workshop is a week from Monday, the 24th at 9 a.m. in the Indian Trail. At that meeting, we'll begin our review of each department's budget as we go through the budget cycle, and we'll work on getting several other budget meetings scheduled over the next few months for our FY26 budget as we come to a finalized budget. So I look forward to working with everybody on that. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, kind sir. Let me ask comments. I only have 2 comments. I had the pleasure of attending the girls softball team game the other night at South Brunswick. If you haven't gone to see them, it's the same, basically the same returning team that was the All-Star, the state champions last year. It'd be nice if we had bigger bleachers there, but that it is what it is because the bleachers are packed, and that's a great thing. So if you have the opportunity to go to one of those games, or to the boys were playing baseball on the next field over at the same time, so I could only go to one or the other. Take the opportunity to go out there and see them and cheer them on, because they are, I believe they're still undefeated, so they won last night. The other part is I want to thank the board, this board right here. There's passion in this board. There's a lot of discussion in this board, and that's all good stuff. And we're not minions of one person or another. And that's where you want the board to be. You don't want one person who's writing the entire thing and deriving it in one direction or another. And we have sometimes perhaps a little bit of animation in our hands and our voice, but I want to thank them because we have moved this board, not Rich Hall. This board has moved some major projects forward, and we need to really get out there, from the big to the small, from sidewalks to finally paving to everything else that we're doing. So with that, the staff reports are in your thing. And there's actually no spot here. So, board comments, I'm sorry. I'm going to start with Frank. Frank, do you have any comments?
I'd just like to thank the staff for all that they've been doing. Thank the city manager for the zest and zeal that he's put into coming into his position, kind of raw and just jumping in there doing everything. And I've seen more reports in the last, he's burning up my email, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Alderman Spencer.
Going to sing a word of praise for HP. I got a call from a very tough constituent, my mother. She said, I've got a card on my door. It's from the city of Southport. What is going on? Mama, I will get to it. I will find out. And I said, why don't you just call him? Who's it there? She said, it's Harlan, somebody, HP. I said, call him, see what he wants. Come to find out, HP had gone down Cape Fear Drive. My mother's dog had got out in the road. HP got the dog, put it back in, locked the gate, left the card to let her know the dog got out. I really appreciate HP for bringing good stories back to this board. Solution-oriented situations where we solve a problem rather than just slam down the axe and it's this way or that. So I appreciate HP out there taking care of my mama's dog. I really do. But more importantly, for being nice to the citizens, treating everybody kindly. He's done a great job of that. Unfortunately, we put too much on him, like picking up trash cans every afternoon after the trash has gone out, or things of that nature, things to discuss. So I'm really appreciative of HP. I had Nelson Adams call me, and there's a section of Caswell Avenue. I think Alderman Kelly lives on that section. It's about 4 or 5 blocks. And I messed up and went to visit Nelson, and he wanted to show me how fast you could go down these 4 or 5 blocks. And he scared the devil out of me. I got in his car, and he proceeded to see how fast he could go. And I told him it wasn't a good idea, but it was extremely wide open. And so I'd like to look at that section from 9th Street back to 11th and see if there could be one stop sign that goes in that section.
And I've talked to Tom Stanley and Chief Coring, and they're going to work on getting a solution for that stretch of road. And so we're on it.
You're killing it, Noah, all the time. Okay, water in the cemetery. Can you tell us what's happening with that?
Yeah, Tom Stanley's been working on that, so I'll work with him to find a few solutions to that and bring that back to you. But he's working on it.
Can you reveal the hurdle in that? Is there a hurdle there?
Well, since it's the county water system, we would just have to get a tap there and a meter there. So just that kind of hurdle, getting over that, and then deciding how we want to kind of frame that, if the city is going to take on that bill responsibility, or how we want to share that with the community.
Have we got a cost yet? Thank you, sir.
Right after recess, I was walking out the door and said, I better stay. There are a few costs. The initial cost for the tap, I believe, will be suitable for the current system that's there in place, is $9,600 for one tap. Plus, we have to do a backflow preventer as well. But there's also some issues with the new lead and copper rules coming in place. Every piece of pipe in that cemetery is galvanized piping, and in the long run, it's going to have to be replaced. So, this is one of the things I was hoping to talk to Noah about before railroading.
Okay.
But, I think some decision need to be made, like, do we want to foot that? Because when you talk about replacing pipes throughout the cemetery, what happens when you replace pipes. But eventually the EPA is going to crack down on that. They've already started with lead and copper survey for service lines from the main line to right of ways, and they're going to be going towards homeowners' houses after that. So I have another solution where maybe we put in a single 1-inch tap on Mitchell Street and maybe a single 1-inch tap on Fodell Avenue, have 2 taps there. It may not be ideal, but maybe we put a backflow and some type of spigot there and choose not to run water line through the cemetery, and people just have to carry their little watering buckets, but it will be access for them to get water if they wish to water their plot. But there's a few options there that I hope to talk to city manager about.
It's not an easy solution. Right. It's not easy.
It's not easy and it's not cheap.
Yes, sir. I'm good. I think that's it.
Alderman Kelly.
I do live on that section of Caswell Avenue, and I have noticed on multiple occasions a Southport City police officer parked on that section of Caswell Avenue to pay attention. There have been evenings where there have been some drag racing through that section. And it appears that it is dealt with very, very quickly when it happens, and some four-wheelers that go regularly through that section racing. So when it's reported, it's dealt with quickly, and I don't know that a stop sign is going to change it, to be honest with you. The other thing, I just want to take a moment to brag on my son a little bit. He was in Beauty and the Beast this past weekend. It was his first play, and he was Monsieur d'Arc and did a great job with his speaking parts in Wilmington at the Level 5 Theater, and I'm really, really proud of him for doing that. So thank you so much.
I'm shocked that he has the gift of gab. Alderman Davis.
A few things. Following up on what Alderman Kelly just said, I am surprised and terribly disappointed in Alderman Spencer for not talking about his son tonight. Tell us what he did.
I did last time.
Yeah,
I
but
did
he's
Monday.
moved further.
He is going to the state competition for the oratorical contest.
Yeah.
And
I
we're
thought he
excited.
won that already.
Not yet. We're going there.
I
And
like
I
that.
am
Not
excited.
yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
And so we're excited. And I did mention that the Monday, thanks to your reminder. And we are very proud of Levi and all the young children that we've got. We have got some young families on this board, and it's wonderful. Thank you.
And the Port Pilot did a nice piece on it.
Yes, ma'am. We're thankful to the state port pilot, wherever he is. There he is. So yes, we're flying. We're doing well. We're doing well and proud for sure.
Alderman Davis, I thought you were going to say you were disappointed that he didn't tell us about his drag racing in particular.
with Nelson Adams, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I've got two other things. Stand down. Parks and Recreation Committee meets this coming Tuesday at 6:00 in the Parks and Recreation building, which is the smaller building next to the gym. And interesting things are happening. The last meeting, we had a group come and make an interesting proposal, and one individual also came and made a proposal. So it doesn't last long. It's about an hour. And I hope that more people will come and participate and find out what Parks and Recreation is doing. And my last comment is this is Women's History Month. And just as a reminder, in 1964, an employer could refuse to hire someone just because she was a woman. As recently as 1964. Until 1972, it was legal for a bank to refuse to let a married woman get her own account. And if a single woman wanted to open even a savings account, she had to have her father, her brother, her husband, or some other reputable man co-sign with her and could attest to the fact that she was a good moral character.
Define reputable.
Alive. Okay. Until 1974, it was legal to refuse to sell a woman a house. Until 1988. Think about that.
That wasn't happening where I lived.
It was everywhere. I don't believe that North Carolina was so enlightened that it did not have these rules too. But in 1988, it was legal for until 1988, it was legal for landlords to refuse to rent a unit to a woman with children. Imagine that. the reason that this is, and that we have a Women's History Month, and I get asked almost every year by some man who wants to know why women have their own month. Why don't men have their own month? Just think about it. And as somebody, I'm quoting something that somebody wrote, your granny didn't stay married because her generation had a stronger moral compass than people today. She stayed married because society literally took away all of her independence. So we who have made great advances at this point in our female lives, we stand on the shoulders of the women who overcame all of that. And this is not stuff that men had to overcome. Yay for Women's History Month.
Alderman Carroll.
So a few years ago, I was on the porch. I don't recall if I had a drink in my hand or coffee or a cigar, but Nelson plucked me up.
Nelson Adams?
Nelson Adams. He said, come on, get in the truck. And he took me down Lord and or Caswell and to show me the bumps where we had cut all of these. And Nelson gets stuff done. He did. So I understand what you went through on that little bit of a ride. And then the only other thing I'd like to say is that to the mayor's point, we are passionate. We are here because we believe in Southport. We believe in the people we serve. We believe in city staff. And so we do get passionate, and we're not scripted, you know, it's from the heart, it's from raw emotion. We didn't have 2 or 3 hours to, you know, or 2 or 3 days to sit and prepare remarks to public comment. We don't get that privilege, but sometimes it's necessary to do that. And so, and we are a mixed bag right here, and it's pretty awesome to see how we are accomplishing stuff, how we can have a 6-0 vote, and the good mayor who's more than willing and happy to break a tie doesn't have to sometimes. So that's all I'm proud to be here. Thank you, guys.
Alderman Mosto.
Women are important too.
Robert just wants to say how much he loves women.
We're going to go in closed session, but I just wanted to ask Tom Stanley one quick question. Have you seen House Bill 159 on the off in the roads? I'm going to leave my copy here if you want to just take it with you, okay? It hasn't progressed very far, but most of the bills haven't progressed very far. So it's a first start. The hang up is really the cost that they assign to it, because they don't know how much money, they don't figure out how much money they have until mid-April. That's when everybody figures out how much money they're going to be able to budget into the budget and how much each elected official is going to have as earmarks, that kind of thing. But it's an interesting thing because we have, is it Caswell Street? Yeah, Caswell Street, part of Caswell Street is an orphan road. I didn't know that until the storm on September 16th, when we were standing on Caswell Street and nobody owned the street. And then we had the pieces on the other side of Robert Rourke. There's pieces all over the place, but this will not fix all of that at one time, but it at least allows a process to take place. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for.
Did you recognize Ms. Mosteller and she passed?
She passed.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll make a motion to go in close.
All right, it's for in pursuit of North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to consult with our attorney and to establish, instruct the public body negotiating agents concerning the position taken on behalf of a public body, the price and other material terms of a contract and proposed contract. That's what it's about.
As said.
Was there a second? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We're in closed session. Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to come out of closed
So
session.
moved.
Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We're out of closed session. Before I entertain the next motion, I got one thing that I forgot. This is just information. It's not in any form yet. There is a potential that the Department of Transportation will work with us to look at the median, if there is a median, on 211. And for us to be able to participate in what that might look like. So I was told by a jurisdiction about this, and they said they had a contract, which they did not have. But when I wrote to the regional director, he said there is no contract, but we're more happy to sit down and work with you on it. And yes, there is money set aside to do something in the medians. So I can't tell by looking out here if there's actually a median when you get down to the Southport side. There's certainly up by St. James and further down, there's a median. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that I started that conversation. Once we figured that all out, I'll go to the manager and the manager will do whatever the manager does with that after that. But as part of reaching out into the world of transportation and RPOs and all of that this board has embraced, we're furthering that discussion. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.